stories, two of them I know are true. So
They're all true.
okay. So
Two of them are interesting.
So I remember a few years ago, 1969, I was stretched out on the beach in San Diego, Ocean Beach, laying on the sand, and I felt the earth shake under me. And I just jumped up and started running as fast as I could and jumped in my car and drove to the highest part of that part of San Diego as fast as I could. And I don't remember ever hearing anything before that about any that waves could be caused by. I may have, but I don't remember ever consciously hearing that. Okay, one story. The second story, I was driving across the United States from California to Atlanta once. And in mid-Texas, I passed a gravel truck. And then I tried to pass a little pickup truck with a bunch of Boy Scouts in it. But I couldn't pass them because they were on their way back from a picnic and they kept throwing pop bottles at me out of the back of the truck. Which, being a former Boy Scout, that really didn't set well with me. But nevertheless, I was driving a Volkswagen van. It was what I used to call a tin can with an engine in it. And so it was pretty susceptible to things flying through the front of it. So I just stayed back behind them, and then some car impatiently got around the truck. Impatiently finally got around. These were all two-lane roads in those days. And then they couldn't pass the kids either because they're throwing pop bottles at them now because they'd had a lot of empty pop bottles at the picnic. So anyway, and so then another car got around us, and there was this whole series, and we're just slowly, it seemed like going into Odessa, Texas, and from east going west. And my thoughts are, well, this is going to be over real soon. They're going to probably local, they're going to turn off, and then I'll get moving again. I didn't really feel particularly trapped. And then I heard a voice in my headset driving on the sidewalk. Well, boy, I just drove my Volkswagen right up on a little sidewalk. There were no people there. And boy, that truck's brakes had gone out, the gravel truck, and it just came to and just smashed all those cars and all those people, and there were bodies everywhere. And I just could not understand through the years until I met you. Why was I saved? Why was I the only one that was told, drive it on the sidewalk? Why didn't all those children know better than that? Why? And you said to me, they all heard, but they wouldn't listen. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't take an action different from what they'd been trained to do. They would never drive a car on the sidewalk just because a voice in their head said drive a car on the sidewalk. But you did. Okay, next story.
But there is that kind of conditioning. In other words, I don't break rules or I don't drive on the sidewalk. But there is another part to that too, and that is you have to be within vibrational earshot. In other words, everyone is receiving the information that will guide them to the most well-being that is possible for them. But everybody is not on the vibrational meter in a place where they can hear. Some of them had their radio dials set at a frequency different than where the information of well-being was coming from. You said it yourself. In your absence of frustration, because you felt relief, you knew that they were going to be turning off. You had been driving. You drive regularly. You are an open vessel when you drive. You were a free being. You weren't doing anything that you didn't want to do. You were tuned in and turned on relative to a lot of things in your experience. If you could think back more specifically, you would remember that it was a time of great opening for you relative to a lot of things. So you were in a more highly than usual mode of receptivity. And the other influences in your life had caused you to begin listening for things from the influence of others who had been around you. You were listening. And so we're not saying that source energy is not talking to all of them. Source energy is. We're saying that everybody's not in the mode where they can hear. You can't be in a vibration of despair or anger or depression and all of a sudden tune up your hearing aid and begin to hear. In other words, you've got to practice yourself into that alignment. It took Esther 9 months of meditation to bring herself into the vibrational frequency where she could hear Abraham, you see. And it's the same sort of thing. Everyone has the potential of hearing, but everyone is not necessarily in this moment on the vibrational wavelength where they hear.
Okay, next story. I don't know that this is
true. So it turns out that the blessed ones that hear are not hearing because they are blessed and chosen to be told. It's that they have blessed themselves into hearing, you see. You're special because you're listening, not because it's being told to you, because it's being told to everyone.
Okay, my next story, this I'm not sure is true. Someone sent us an email, and 3 people said they've heard it on the news recently. I haven't been listening to the news, but they said that this tsunami hit a certain area, I think in Sri Lanka, and that I think they said they found 22,000 human bodies, but although it had also gone through a game preserve, that not one animal body was found, that all the elephants and lions and tigers, and not even a rabbit, they said, had drowned. In other words, that they had all ran for the, like I did from San Diego Beach, when they felt the tremor, whatever they felt through the earth, they head for the high hills, and they were all safe. Okay, so now and then, and that may be true or may not be true, but I believe it is true. But and then finally, because I know that you can feel it, Esther, when we used to be concerned about earthquakes a few years ago, I remember you could make one of Esther's eyes twitch if there was an earthquake anywhere on the planet, and you'd make her other eye twitch if there was a volcano anywhere on the planet. We'd read it in the newspaper, there was something on the other side of the earth. So I know you do feel them all the way through the earth. Esther could through you. Then she got tired of winking and blinking so much with that game. But so anyway, the animals obviously felt that, and I'm guessing, and off they went. Okay, now here's my question. And so we're getting many, many, many emails in the last week or so, wanting to hear from you. Why would so many people choose to leave a departure from Earth at the time that those tens of thousands or 100,000, whatever people have left physical in the Asian, Indian Ocean scenario?
So
my question is about the word choice.
You want us to explain why each one of them?
No.
It will take quite a while.
No. Just, I want you to answer their question for them on tape.
Well, let's put it in perspective.
Thank you.
And we will do our best to answer this, but you have to be somewhere in our vibrational vicinity even to begin to get this. So this answer will soothe you or annoy you. And it will depend upon how close you are to recognizing that there is no such thing as death. Fast forward for a moment. How many people do you estimate made their transition directly related to this tsunami? Over 100,000? So now fast forward 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 years and focus upon those same people. Would they still be here, or would they then be gone anyway? In other words, time is going to annihilate all of you. Would you agree? So we're just wanting you to sort of follow our reasoning here. So you accept that death is an inevitable process of what you call human life. In other words, you're coming and going and coming and going. And people are dying on a regular basis around your planet for a lot of different reasons. And that is not so upsetting to you. What's upsetting to you is that it is happening to so many so quickly, but we will get to the heart of why it's bothering you, because we think it is an issue that you have with the idea of death. In other words, we can't begin to soothe you about the idea of that many people making their transition within a relatively short period of time until you have soothed yourself about the idea of death to begin with. The reason that this is hard, our answer is hard for people to hear, is because there are many people who equate death with things that go wrong. You call death that bad thing that you don't want to happen. You push against death very hard for very long, and so then when death happens, you mourn the loss of someone, or you experience the trauma of the death. You are not in the flow of understanding that you are eternal beings, and that what you call death is just a refocusing of life, you see. So we wanted to give you that basis so that you would understand that some who make their transition, and there were animals, by the way, some who make their transition because they have experienced enough resistance that even though they would tell you that they want to continue life in this body, they've not practiced the vibration of life as much as they've practiced the vibration of pushing against. So as those we were talking about, they're just not in a place where they hear. Where there are many who are so involved in living this physical body on the beach or living non-physically is not such a vibrational difference. In other words, we want to say to you that the transition from physical into that which you call non-physical or death is not a tragic experience. It's a normal experience, you see. And we know it's one of the primary reasons that we enjoy visiting with you so much. We want to bring all of you to the place where you are enjoying your now so much that you're not unhappy about how long it took you to get here or how long you think you will be here. In other words, we want you to live a series of nows that feel good to you. And so now we want to draw your attention to this. Right now is now. We are in the Eastern time zone on your continent. California is in a time zone that is different, but it is still now. China is in a time zone that is different, but it is still now. Non-physical is not in any time zone, but it is still now. In other words, everything is happening now. Someone frolicking on the beach now, and then they drowned, and now they're frolicking in the non-physical, but it is still now. And the spirit has not experienced anything detrimental other than a powerful and abrupt awakening into well-being. In other words, we don't get this trauma you have over death because we have the advantage of a broader view. So before we can talk to you about 150,000 people making their transition in a similar area all at one time, we want to point out to you that it happens all the time, that death is a natural thing, that you are eternal beings, that there is no such thing as death, that whether you are in the Eastern time zone or the Western time zone or the other side of the world time zone or the non-physical timeless zone, it is still now, and the potential for joy is still there. And if you will work to get into that modality, you will begin to enjoy your life now. And until you do, then there's not really a whole lot of reason to be in this body, because to be in this body in fear or in dread or in worry or in mourning is wasted life. It is pinching yourself off from the now that is really you see. Now, on another note, we know that it is unsettling to say, oh, just accept death and you'll get along better in this world, because what we really want to teach you is that you can be deliberate creators and you can choose the timing of your death. And when you see that many people make their transition all at once, to assume that it is all miscreating or creating by default is inaccurate, because there are many who have lined up with that. Esther saw 27 dead carcasses on the road as they drove from Destin to Tampa. Some were dogs, some were deer, some were unrecognizable things. And Esther thought, as she saw each one of them, you rendezvoused with a vehicle because you were disconnected and didn't know what you were doing, you blind fool. Or you rendezvoused with this vehicle and used it as your means into non-physical because it was your time to go. You were ready for a new experience. Which feels better to you? And we say, with the animals, they're trying to teach you there's no such thing as death, and when they go, it is with less trauma because they don't see themselves as limited to one body. They see themselves as eternal beings that are continuing to have the experience. But you all get in your bodies and you get all attached to your life. You get attached to the other people. You get attached to your progress. You get attached to your enlightenment. And then you say, oh, I banged around unenlightened all those years and then I got enlightened. Now I don't want to croak and be born back into a body and raised by Catholics and sent to religious schools where I am no longer enlightened and where I have to climb my way back out into enlightenment. And we have to say to you, the beasts have an advantage to you because they don't have the resistance around starting over again like you do. But from your non-physical perspective, life is eternal and you just don't worry about it.